Hi, Vue Amsterdam. How are you today? Woo! So, yeah, there's a cat already. So today is almost the second anniversary of the Vue CLI UI project, which began in my mind 2 years ago in Vue Amsterdam. I don't know if you know this conference. It's a nice conference, in the Netherlands. And I was discussing with the creator of Sandbox IO, Code Sandbox, sorry, Yves, about doing more interface-based software for developers. So I was starting to come up with this idea of turning the Vue CLI, the upcoming Vue CLI 3 release, into a graphical user interface. So today I'm going to talk about Vue CLI UI. So I'm Akryum. You can find me on Twitter or GitHub with this nickname. My real name is Guillaume Chau. So let's get started. So yeah, as I said, more than a year ago, we worked on and we finally released the stable version of Vue CLI 3, which kind of changed the way we create Vue applications, and it became the standard way of creating and building applications with Vue. And it had a lot of new features compared to the previous version, and it also came with a graphical user interface. So this graphical user interface was opened with this Vue UI command you might be familiar with. And basically what it was doing was spawning a node server with Apollo, and then opening a Vue application in your default browser. And then you had a communication between those two using GraphQL. And then you had that kind of thing. So I think that's the first screenshot I shared ever of this on Twitter. So that was April on 2018. And then people were excited. And sometimes also a bit confused, like, okay, wait, a graphical user interface for CLI? That's weird, but why not? And it turned out that it made approaching Vue CLI project easier, especially for people that are not using the terminal all day. And it also made a lot of things more discoverable because it was a full-blown user interface. So for example, you can search for Vue CLI plugins, or you had a lot of explanations everywhere. And it also enabled richer interactions. For example, we could display a color picker to customize your PWA manifest. So that was nice. And people loved it, like a lot. I had a great response to this. So I continued to work on it. And then a lot of things happened. Sorry. So let's take a look. So the project, as I said, initially began in my mind 2 years ago. And then I shared the first screenshot, and people were like, oh my God, that's nice, and that's weird. And then we finally released Vue CLI 3 after more than 6 months of work. And then something happened. And then I also worked on another project I launched in October last year at Vue London, which is called Awesome.js.dev. That's a website you can go to, which is kind of a registry for packages that are sorted into project types. So you can go and check it out. And another thing happened this year. We'll see in a moment. And then we're here in February. So I didn't leave the project like this. In fact, I worked a lot on this Vue CLI UI project in the past year. And today I'm here to talk about this work. So, if some of you were in Vue London last year? Raise your hand. Oh, I see some. Okay. So here in London, I launched this Awesome.js project, which is basically a web application. So we are some of the technologies I'm using. And it looks like this. So you can browse project types. So for example, you can go to the Vue section, and then you have all kind of Vue packages. And then you can go to the next section, and then you have only Nuxt packages. That's an ongoing project, and it counts on the community to also add new packages to it. And then it's it's curated by hand, by moderators. So the goal is to have a very high quality registry for your projects. And then at the end of the talk, I had those 2 slides. So I was choosing this talk, basically. So for those of you that were in London, that's what I was referring to. So we are in February now. So I'm very stressed because here's the time. So are you ready? Woo! Who is ready? So what if Vue CLI UI on Nuxt had a baby? Or what if it had a baby with a lot of people? Who is excited? Woo! What if it supports mono repositories? Woo! Who is using mono repositories? That's a lot of people. What if it has a lot of keyboard shortcuts? Who likes keyboard shortcuts? Yeah. A lot of them, actually. Who likes command palettes in VS Code, for example? Yay! I like it. And what if it's not a command anymore? It's an actual app? And what if it weighs less than 2 megabytes? Woo! And less RAM usage than Electron? Woo! That's exciting. That's the most exciting part, right? So, are you ready now? Yeah! Are you ready? So I'm very pleased to introduce my new project that I've been working on last year, which is called Guya.js. It stands for Graphical User Interface for JavaScript Projects. Woo! Wait a little bit. So it's faster than Vue CLI UI. It's also stronger, so I completely reworked the architecture. And it's also, I tried to make it smarter. And what I actually did was to almost entirely rewrite the project from scratch. I also worked on a brand new design and a better architecture. Who wants a demo? Let's do a demo. So I'm not going to open any terminal this time. I'm going to go to my application menu and find this little icon. And then it's going to open. And here we are. This is Guya.js. So that's the home screen you're gonna get. And the first thing you can notice is that it's keyboard enabled. So you can enter keyboard shortcuts, for example, to open the command palette, quite similar to Visual Studio Code for who's are using it. And the first thing you can also notice is that there's a dark theme. Yeah. Woo! And there's also this little button at the bottom, so I'm not sure you can see it, which allows you to open terminals. So yeah, terminals in the graphical user interface. That's great. So that's for the people that still likes terminals a lot, but you don't have to use it. And then let's create a project, shall we? Oh. Are the demo gods against me? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, okay. So when you create a new project, as you can see, you can choose between a simple project, which is the kind of project you usually create with Vue CLI, for example. But you can also create a mono repository projects. So by default, it will create a learner configuration file and also set up yarn for workspace. So let's select simple project for now. And then you can select a folder. It looks very native. And then I can enter a name. And then the big difference, another big difference compared to Vue CLI UI, is that here you can select a project generator, which is not just Vue CLI. Woo! So I'm gonna still use Vue CLI for this one, but next we're gonna create a next application. So now it's spawning Vue CLI in the background and creating your project. So the application is still in early stages, so I don't have the whole configuration screen yet, but it will be there. Most of the features you know in Vue CLI UI will be ported over to this new project. So here we go. We have a new project. So it opened on the sidebar here. And then we can, for now, go to the packages. And as you can see, another big difference is that now the packages are sorted to project types, and this is sourced from Awesome.js.dev. So each time we add new packages to Awesome.js, it will add a richer metadata to those packages. So for example, you can click on Vue CLI, and you have all your Vue CLI packages. You can click on Vue, and you have your Vue packages, and so on. Then you can install new packages, and it will open Awesome.js. And you can, for example, say, I want moment. Oh, it's not opening. Oh, it's slow. Okay. And then you have here a little button you don't have normally on the website, which is install. And then you have this little modal where you can see all the available versions on the tags on the NPM. You can also customize what kind of version range you want to use in your project. So for example, greater or equal, minor updates only, patch updates only. So let's say patch updates only. And then you hit install, and then it installs in your project. In the future, you will also be able to update all your packages from this screen, and also update one package at a time if you want to. So next up is the script screen, which is the equivalent to the task screen in Vue CLI UI. So here you find all your scripts in your project. So for example, you can run the serve command to start Webpack. So it's still early. We don't have all the fancy Webpack dashboard yet, but you can still run the things, and then we have a web app running. Okay, so let's create a new project, shall we? And then I'm going to select not Vue CLI this time. Let's give it a name, Nuxt. And then I'm going to select Nuxt here and proceed. And then you're going to generate a next project. And we haven't touched the terminal yet. Isn't that nice? Yeah. I should have fast internet. It's going to happen eventually. Yes. Woo. We have a next project. Cool. I'm going to kill it. Sorry. And next, I'm going to import a project so I can show you quickly how mono-repository support works. So I'm going to choose a project of mine. I can bookmark it if I want. And then if I go here, I can't see anything because that's a mono repository. So if you're not familiar with this concept, it's basically sub-projects inside your project. So by default, I have only the root selected, but I also have access to the sub-projects, which are called workspaces. So for example, I can go to the front end, and the front end is basically a Vue app. You can also edit this workspace, and let's say it's a Vue application, so it's easier to see, and I can do the same in the back end. Oh, sorry, Node. And now you can quickly see which one is the front end and the back end. And you can also do this with keyboard, right? Because keyboard is cool. You can also go to the scripts and see that here's a serve script from Vue CLI, and if I go back to the backend, I have different scripts because that's a different workspace. You can also use the command palette with Control-P to search for scripts, for example. So if I type dev and I hit enter, it immediately opens the corresponding script, and then I go back and hit search for serve and hit enter, and then my whole project is live on my computer. So it's very, very fast. You can also edit the scripts, and here I'm working on a full-blown user interface to interact with your commands. So that's not implemented yet, but I have already made the mockups. So I think that's it for the demo. I'm running out of time. So I hope you liked it. Yeah, exciting. So a little bit of more information about it before I go. So it's basically a different kind of app, but the architecture is quite similar. Instead of having a command line, which is Vue UI, you have a full application based on the Tori project, which is a Rust project, which enables this kind of application with a web view in your system. So that's why it's weighing way less than an Electron app, and also having only a few megabytes of RAM usage on your system. So that's very nice, I think. And it's still spawning graphical server and web interface, and also using GraphQL, so it can also be used by other external applications, for example, Sizy. And then it interacts with Awesome.js. And there is no Electron. Yeah! You can find a bit more about this project, which is very promising, which is called Tori. And we can go back to this little timeline we had. So last year, I started to work on this idea of having a new application, not just for Vue CLI, but for anything. So I started to fork the Vue CLI UI project in another repository, and I worked on ideas. And then I thought I thought it was a good idea to rethink also the architecture of the project. So that's why I started a rewrite at the beginning of the year. And the roadmap is first making it stable and porting back the features from Vue CLI UI back to Guya.js, and then supporting plugins, and also providing a good migration path for existing Vue CLI UI users. So you can download it now if you're if you're like eager to try it, even if it's not completed yet. So you can go to this website or the GitHub repository, and you can also follow the project on Twitter. So I created an account for it, which is Guya.js official. And that's it for today. So I'd like to thank my sponsors on GitHub, which are Vue Mastery and Vue School, Vuetify, some guys which are organizing this conference, and Livestorm, my employer. And I also happen to do a workshop in March. So if you're interested in supporting me and learning something in the process, you can go check it out on workshopsummit.com. And that's it. Thank you.